On Point Wildlife Removal. If you think you might have critters in your attic like squirrels, bats, rats, or raccoons, give us a call today. We'll come out, we'll take a look, we'll give you a free quote to get them out, to seal up your home, and clean up whatever mess they left behind. We're locally owned and operated, and we're fully licensed and insured.
Well, hello everyone. This is Robert with the Space Coast Rocket. It has been a great day so far today. And we are going live from a different location tonight, but this is continuing our candidate series, doing live one-on-one interviews with our candidates that are going to be on the August ballot coming up in a few days, right? I think Saturday starts early voting. So today we have someone who's running to be the first female elected mayor of the city of Palm Bay, Tatiana Rosado. Good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me, Robert.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for joining us. This is completely optional. It's not mandatory. It's free. It's a chance for the candidates to get in front of our audience and plead their case and let the people get to know them and possibly answer some questions from the audience as well. Just so everybody knows, every candidate gets this invitation. Every candidate gets these questions beforehand. We do this instead of debates, traditional debates, because we want to make sure that the candidates have a decent amount of time to give substantive answers to the questions. And it's not like a gotcha type question or to catch somebody off guard. We really want to know what the candidates think on these issues. So that's why we do it in this format. And so far it seems to be working pretty well. And so with that, I'm going to go straight to our first question and say, can you introduce yourself and give us a brief overview of your background?
So my name is Tatiana Rosado, and I'm running for mayor of Palm Bay. A quick history about me is I have grown up in Palm Bay since I was about 4 years old. This has been my long-term community. Obviously left to finish university, ended up completing an associate's at BCC before it was ever Eastern State of Florida. Went on to get a bachelor's out of UCF and then completing 2 masters out of Webster University. I believe I might have repeated myself, but we'll go with it. This has been my hometown for so long, and I'm just tired of seeing, not enough change, not enough facilitated opportunities for youth and even those in my same age bracket. I think it's important that you have diversity, and I think it'd be a unique experience to finally have a woman sitting on the diocese after it's been so long. We've never actually had a formal mayor female, which I believe it would add an additional value to the diocese.
Well, there's definitely no doubt about that. We could definitely use a woman's touch up there, trying to keep these men in line because they need to be checked. Am I right?
Yeah. Sometimes people need a mom. So
yeah, sometimes people need a mom. Sometimes the mom needs to be up there to get these guys from fighting each other.
Right.
And that kind of goes into the next question. So, what specifically motivated you to run? I know the last couple of years has been tumultuous. Did I say that word right? Difficult. Yeah, difficult. Let's say difficult with Palm Bay City Council. We've had resignations, retirements. We've had a lot of issues going on, and right now we only have 3 people on the dais. And if something was to happen to one of them, we wouldn't even have a quorum to get business done. So, what was it that's motivated you specifically to want to run?
It's just been a long time of having the same frustration, just watching it, just being overly tired of seeing the same issues. We've seen the problems with safety. We've seen the issues with infrastructure. And I just grew so tired of trying to motivate others to run for this position. I was a vice president of the League of Women Voters, and I would try to encourage other women to run, including men and youth. And you just get to a point where you get so tired that the only opportunity, the only choice for change is to do it yourself. And, I obviously have the qualifications. I have the education, I have the experience of creating long-lasting change in aerospace and defense. And what better opportunity than to use my own skill set to do just that for Palm Bay?
It's great that you bring up the qualifications that you have because, basically in order to qualify to run for city council, you just have to have lived in Palm Bay and are an adult. and you pretty much, that's your qualification. So it becomes a popularity contest at that point, and sometimes people get elected for being more popular other than being more qualified. So I always
Mhm.
appreciate when candidates can talk, about their actual qualifications to do the job.
Mhm.
You're managing the largest city in the county geographically and by population, and a tremendous budget. So it's great to know that we have some education potentially coming in there. Uh, with that, what are the top 3 issues facing our city, and how do you plan to address them?
So obviously there's quite a few more issues than just three, but I would say it'd probably be in the realm of, our EMS services or safety services, which includes our police and our fire, and the shortages we have with them. We have issues with infrastructure, so that includes our roadway, our developers that were developing all of these additional homes without consulting the impact that it'll have long term, and then you have the lack of opportunities. So if we look at what Palm Bay looks like, they continue to say that we're a bedroom community, but we've seen how quickly that has changed over time. I think it's important to stress the importance of job creation in the local area, that we start looking into a downtown opportunity, which will bring in small businesses. It'll also bring in the opportunity for families to meet, greet, and collaborate. And again, youth programs, these are opportunities that we keep continually forgetting. And let's look at the average age of Palm Bay. They're about 41 years old. So we're talking about millennials that are typically having children, typically moving to the area with children. So you have to find things to engage them, to keep them occupied, to keep them growing and developing. And if we don't have that, that means that they're leaving Palm Bay to get those type of things. And eventually, those individuals want to move to closer facilities so that their children feel safeguarded, their children feel seen, heard, and I think those are things that we've continually forgotten.
Yeah, and you mentioned public safety. Recently, the mayor came under fire with his proposal to raise taxes in order to try to fund some of the public safety deficits that we're having. And then I think the very next meeting he changed his mind on that. But what do you think? How do we? Obviously, we need more police. We need more fire. We're continuing to grow. What do you think is the proper way to fund that and fund that growth responsibly?
So I think the first goal is to do a complete audit, understanding where the budget is, where you have opportunity within that budget. Oftentimes, you're supposed to put a safety blanket on a majority of the decision making. Um, so the last thing you want to do is go to a taxation policy. We put that 3% limit in 2016 to protect everyone in Palm Bay, and by emphasizing and adopting this process, that means every year that this could potentially increase. And if you look at the community, you're asking teachers, you're asking working class to pinch their pennies to ensure that they can continue to live in their homes. I had brought this up during my last live about this not being the correct direction of Palm Bay. We need to first buckle down where the issues are. And if we want to try to find the financial sources, we also have to look into other opportunities to fund them. So that would include bringing in small businesses, bringing in organizations that will eventually relieve the local taxpayers versus it continuing to be them that support the overall economy.
Right. And you mentioned the downtown, a possible downtown for Palm Bay. Do you have any idea where you think would be a great place for that downtown to be located?
So I actually spoke to an individual who helped create downtown Melbourne, and it was
Okay.
based on the location in the centralized area. So Palm Bay is so vast. Really, the best location would be around the Babcock Malabar area. And the reason for that is, you're asking people from the Bayside area to commute. You're asking people who live around the Palm Bay Road area to drive down. That's the most centrally located. It's as close as you can get to the water without actually passing, Palm Bay into Malabar.
Right.
And I think it'd be a unique location just because it is kind of historical looking. You do have a lot of smaller businesses that still exist there. I'm a big proponent to the Twisty Cone that's right there on Malabar. You often see me there way too frequently. So kudos to them for getting my money.
That's good. And then another hot issue, with um, a lot of citizens are concerned about in the city of Palm Bay is the compound. What are we going to do with the compound? A lot of people don't even understand, how the issues that we face with the compound, as far as, so many thousands of people, individual landowners out there. But obviously, people are concerned about the crime. They're concerned about the future of it. What is your vision?
So I think we have to implement a plan that will bring in opportunity first. So, they're talking about bringing in water and electricity. Those are nice solutions, but let's look for something quicker to generate the cost, to generate the way we actually pay for these type of situations. We haven't looked into things like the mud runner or the mud runner. Yes. And as well as the events like the Renaissance Fair in Wickham Park. So typically those type of events, when you look at state fairs, they generate about $2 million, right? So, and that's typically a week long. If we were to say capitalize on those Renaissance fairs are about 9 weeks. Yes, I understand that it will be an influx of traffic, but let's think about the numbers. If we were to bring in the Renaissance Fair for 9 weeks in February, and that typically runs into the middle of March, that will also generate $2 million per week, right? So we're following this. So 2 million times 9 is what? 18 million. We're also not considering the fact that a majority of the people who attend these events are typically staying within the area. So they're going to be staying in hotels, they're going to be eating locally. And again, this is just going to generate revenue for the people who are in Palm Bay. With these funds, we start generating additional capital to start paying for electricity and light to build out there. And that space is so vast that, we own 235 square miles of that location. You have the potential to build an industrial park, like people have been asking, as well as working opportunities for the working class. I think sometimes the city forgets when they invite a lot of these organizations that they're looking for specific workforce. So, you look at these larger aerospace defense companies, and I know this because obviously I work in these organizations, and not everyone can qualify to work there. So I would much rather bring in organizations that allow people with high school diplomas, which is about 30% of the population in Palm Bay,
Right.
to be able to have those opportunities. So it's little solutions like that where we can start to fix the problem versus continuing to ignore it.
Those are great ideas, and I like your vision of, bringing in organizations where people can kind of grow within them.
Right.
It's been we've kind of gotten away from that, where people have worked in one place, since they were kids, and then growing up, and then next thing you know, they're, high level managers there. So,
Right.
and that just gives some consistency and longevity to the security of the city when you have those options. So,
Right. And that
great
just makes for more reliable employees too. Like employers want that. We're building that opportunity for them here too.
great. One of the big things we see here is, once a lot of people show up to city council meetings when there's something that's affecting, like, right next door to them, right?
Right.
And we see that with the majors golf course, or when someone's about to build a development, in somebody else's backyard. Then that's when the community starts to engage. But how do you get the community to be engaged and informed before those issues happen, or before those kind of controversial things?
So one of the initiatives I want to implement is to have sit with the mayor, more community advisory boards. The sit with the mayor would be an opportunity for you to hear directly from, your city council in a more casual setting, lets you know what's coming up, concerns you can be listened to at that moment in time. I know we have several advisory boards, but sometimes not everyone feels comfortable attending those type of events. But if, say, you set this into a location in Palm Bay, a small business that not only brings business to that small location, but it also allows you to communicate and be in touch with the locals. I think people forget the importance of local politics, because that's ultimately what affects you the most. There's very little opportunity to talk to your higher level leaderships when you're looking at a state level, at a congressional level. While your local level, you should be able to access them. And I think having those type of opportunities is something I want to build, because every individual in this community counts. You matter. And I feel like sometimes when you get into those positions, they forget.
That's a great point, and I think a lot of citizens have been getting frustrated both at the city level and at the county level, where it appears that the elected officials are listening to other elected officials or
Mhm.
lobbyists more than they're listening to the actual citizens. So I think it's important for that community engagement, because those are the customers, right? They always say,
Right.
"What's the voice of the customer?" The customers are your citizens. So that's good. That's good to hear your approach there. What is your long-term vision for the city? I mean, we got a long way to go in Palm Bay. What's your long-term vision?
I mean, if I give my long-term vision, it's obviously, again, a lot of opportunity, a lot of community involvement. Um, Palm Bay has been known as a bedroom community for as long as it's been around. And I think my overall goal is to create a community where you have upward mobility, where you have, safety in place, you have a strong infrastructure, you have a lot of opportunity. Um, I've had the privilege to grow up here, and I've seen nuances and little moments of glittering moments where you got these like quick opportunities and then suddenly it was pulled away. And my goal is to ensure that those stay in place. We don't lose the quality of living simply because someone's looking to capitalize on Palm Bay on the long term.
You work in the tech industry, so to speak, the industrial industry, so you know about metrics and measuring things. You know, how do you measure the success of the policies or the things that you will be implementing? How do you know they're successful? What are you going to use to gauge that?
I mean, if we look at KPIs, or we basically establish a quantifiable goal,
Right.
you should be able to problem solve through like bottlenecks. You should be able to problem solve through your roadblocks. And so these could be things like an overspend, like we see in our roadway. Over $60 million was overspent. If you are properly gauging things, you should be able to check them off your list. Know that there is a a backup account ready to cover those type of costs. You have, and this isn't always metrically driven. This should also be an opportunity for feedback from your community. So, we only ever have feedback at city council. And I think it's important that you also have feedback in person. So like I was saying, having that interactive mayor in the community, having that type of moment. But not just that, you also need to be able to gauge people who can't always make those type of meetings.
Right.
I know we're transitioning to a online platform where people can provide feedback, but I think it's also important to have surveys going out to your community so they can tell you what they're dealing with, what issues they're undergoing, because that's how you problem solve. That's how you find solutions.
That's a great point, and we do use the benefits of technology a lot, but there's a nuanced approach to it as well to make that face-to-face contact. I've seen you out there knocking the doors out there during your campaign. You can always tell who's really campaigning just by who's got the sunburn, who's got their
Yeah.
skin's got that little darker tint
I
to
may
it.
have to replace my sneakers soon. So that's funny.
Those are good problems. Those are good problems to
Yeah,
have.
always.
Let's see. I think we got a couple more questions. Um, Here's a good one: is what are your core values and how do they influence your decision making?
I mean, to me, my core values are obviously my beliefs. I'm a person of faith. I believe in loyalty. I believe in honesty. I believe in stepping up within my community. You often forget how important it is to be able to help and support other people. It's not always for you, but always for the greatest good. And that's one of my core values. I've thankfully been I have, my parents to help facilitate that opportunity when I was growing up. The education I've received, all of those things have helped propel me and help drive me. And I use those tools no matter what position I'm in, whether it's within the organization I'm in, whether I'm coaching a soccer team, or if it's just me one-on-one having a conversation. I think it's important to always see people as they are, understand that they're coming from different experiences, always being respectful. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. We got a question that came in from a audience member here. Holly Floyd says, "What are you going to do for the homeless. There's a decent homeless population in the city of Palm Bay. A lot of times we don't see them unless they happen to be, at an intersection somewhere, asking for money or something like that. But because we have such a wooded and high vegetation area, they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. But they are there, and they
They are
are
there.
part of our community. So what's your plan with how to address the homeless situation?
So my biggest upset about this is because there was raised funds to actually put a facility in Palm Bay. Those funds were given by the current incumbent to Melbourne to create a facility out there. I think it's important that we start raising funds to house the homeless. Oftentimes people say they don't want that in their city, but guess what? They're here, and they need to be treated with respect. I went to an engagement in Cocoa where they talked about opportunities to house the homeless, as well as avoiding that situation, because a lot of the time, the average income for Palm Bay residents is $63,000. That's not a livable wage. That's not a reasonable wage for people to live on. So we have to look into more opportunities of reduced rates for home owning. We have to look into financial assistance when it comes to being able to pay your bills so you don't end up on the streets. I would love to see us not only collaborate within the city, but also extremities like Melbourne, West Melbourne, because our homeless, our community, they're living amongst us. So we need to provide a facility for them to feel seen, heard, as well as being provided opportunities, because a number of them do have, mental health issues.
Right.
And I think to be able to partner with a lot of these organizations where they provide, mental health assistance, as well as job seeking assistance, because not everyone wants to be there. Some people want the opportunity to change their situation. But for those that struggle with that, we need to have a way to, protect them and feed them and make them feel like a human being, to be honest. So
It's definitely a very complex situation, and when you do a root cause analysis of it, you'll find there's a lot of different causes. People have a lot of different situations for how they ended up in this position, and we can't just have a cookie cutter,
yeah,
plan. We have to have, tailored plans to kind of address those core issues for those groups of people, because like you said, they are part of our community. They matter just as much as everyone else, and we have to have services available for them.
absolutely.
Let's see. Are you aware Palm Bay was ranked sixth most overpriced housing market in the United States? Yeah, I think I've written about that as well. And the affordable housing is an issue that's going on. That's driven a lot by property insurance rates and a lot of different things, but not necessarily city council type things,
Right.
but more state and national type issues. But the next question I wanted to get to is with you being an addition and the only female on the dais, we've dealt with a lot of conflict on the dais in the last couple of years, just between the council members, and and I think there's a lot of people who have been expressed their concerns with the mayor when he didn't show up for council meetings, and he said he did it on purpose, in order to try to force to get the things that he wanted that he didn't have the votes for. There was an issue where he gave a flag to a convicted murderer. So there's been a lot of uh, what's that word again?
Tumultuous. Yeah.
Tumultuous things going on the dais. So how do you plan on, as a mayor, you're going to be the spokesperson. You're going to be kind of the pulse of the city. How do you fix that?
I think it's important to understand where everyone comes from. Everyone has experiences, but also you're working a job. You're serving your community. So you need to show up for your community. That also means that you have to hold each other accountable. And it's not to say that you shouldn't have disagreements, because that is the point of having multiple voices on your council, is that there is going to be someone who will potentially speak for you. This is, again, a growing community. So the more voices you have, the more opportunity for your opinions and your suggestions to be heard. When people talk about, collaborating and issues in the office place, I mean, I've dealt with that throughout my entire career. You will always have a difference of opinion. You will always have people arguing, but I think it's honestly how tactfully you hold them accountable. I will not tolerate, yelling and disrespect, especially when you're supposed to be serving the people of your community. I think there are places for you to do that, and it's certainly not sitting at the diocese. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you saying the word collaborate and not collaborate. That drives me crazy when the current mayor says collaborate. I just think of somebody getting clobbered over the head when he says that. So thank you for using the right word there. The last question sometimes it's the easiest, sometimes it's the hardest question is what makes you a better candidate? Why should voters pick you over your opponent to be the mayor of Palm Bay?
I mean, I have a longstanding history of working programs from start to finish, understanding that who the key stakeholders are, who it is I'm serving, reviewing the financial statements and understanding how to apply them. I have the experience of working with various communities, not just in Palm Bay, but in other locations that I've lived. And, I feel like I know how to drive and create long-term partnerships, to bring in businesses, to look for these outside opportunities. I mean, like I said, since I grew up here, I got to see missed opportunities, and I know how to bring them back in. I think my experience and my drive and my desire to help everyone within the community to ensure that your voice is heard. That's my complete slogan. If you look at it, it's committed to community. And I feel like a lot of the candidates that are running for their own personal desire versus the goal of fixing Palm Bay, of ensuring its safety, ensuring its growth, and promoting a healthy, long-term growing city.
You can always tell when someone has a genuine love for their city and they're doing it for the best. They have in their mind the best for the city and not for themselves. And we appreciate you saying that. And we appreciate you coming on. Anyone until you run for office, you really don't understand how much of an undertaking that is. And you've kind of put yourself out there to the public because you're asking for the public trust, right?
Right.
You put yourself out there to just be cut to pieces and torn apart and looked at and looked everything. So I commend you for stepping up, throwing your hat into the ring to be the leader of this great city. And thank you for coming onto the Space Coast Rocket. Like I said, everyone's been invited, but not everybody's taking advantage of it. Some people are just scared, and that's okay too. People are scared about what's going to be asked. But if you're going to run, you can't be scared.
Yeah, you can't be. And I
Can't
mean,
be-
you've given enough time for us to, have the tools and do our research. And I think that's imperative of anyone who's running. You really have to know the community. You have to know your people, and you can't expect someone else to provide you the tools to get it done. You have to
Yeah,
do it yourself.
absolutely, absolutely. Where can people find you? Find more information about you? You got a website? Instagram, TikTok, any of that
I
stuff?
do. So I have Instagram, Tatiana Rosado for mayor, as well as TatianaRosado.com. You can go straight to my website. I do have Facebook, Tatiana for mayor. Again, obviously I'm promoting for mayor, so it should be relatively easy to find me. Again, any helping hand, you're welcome to join us. This Saturday, we will have a meet and greet in Palm Bay, right off of Malabar Road at the Cuban Life. Please join us, the Tree of Life. It'll be an opportunity to meet with me, and you can join our team and continue to spread the word.
Well, Tatiana, thank you so much for coming on tonight and talking to us and answering the questions and answering the audience's questions too. Good luck in your campaign, and you're welcome back to speak with us anytime you like.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Again, this is Robert, the Space Coast Rocket. We'll be continuing this series for the rest of the week. I think we have a candidate for each night for the rest of this week, and then going into next week. This Saturday starts early voting, so if you haven't voted yet, get ready to get out there, cast your vote, let your voice be heard. If you're a candidate and you still want to join us on here, there's still time. Send us a message, shoot me an email, and we'll get you signed up. Until then, everybody have a great night and stay safe.